Alright, what up YouTube? It's a nice saying here back with another video. It's gonna be a part 2 of it, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. These are gonna be like my notes, my little cliff notes I made, and just explaining it in my own words and what I got from it. Chapter 2 it's called Effective Thought on Circumstances. And first I'm going through my notes and then try to explain them. So, as a man, mind is a garden. Plant seeds of positivity, productiveness, peace, love, and it will bloom those seeds. And if you plant hate, guilt, shame, negativity, you will bear negative fruits, weeds, and vines of hate and negativity. Negativity. It will always bring forth what your thoughts, whether your thoughts are negative or positive. A man starts to understand that he becomes a master gardener in his mind, body, and soul, and director of his life. Outer state will often be a reflection of one's inner state. Every man lives in a house that his thoughts has built for him to live in willingly or unwillingly. Soul attracts what it secretly harbors, what it loves, what it fears, being a critic of your own suffering and bliss. Nor does a pure-minded man fall suddenly into crime by stress or mere external force. Nor a criminal thought had been secretly fostered in the heart. Circumstance only reveal himself to the vices or the negative inclination, or vice versa. You attract what you are. Wishes and prayers are only granted when your thoughts and your actions are congruent. Every man fighting against circumstance, negative thought, or negative action may manifest as a vice or unconscious weakness, almost like a possession. The amount of success must meet the sacrifice. It's very human for people to think that they suffer for their virtues. Suffering is a sign of a person who is out of alignment with himself and with himself and the law of his being. Suffering can only be used as a tool to purify, to burn anything impure and useless. A man only begins to be a man when he ceases to whine and revile and to commence search for his hidden justice, which regulates his life. Now, I actually like this chapter. I like this whole chapter a lot because I think this is like just the baseline of what people need to understand is that, for one, at the end, like the last thing I read about a man be like stopping all the complaining, all the whining, all the pointing fingers. When you start to do that, your life truly starts to transform in a crazy way. And of course, at first it's gonna be subtle. It's gonna be hard to do, especially if you always talking. I think, like I said, for me, it was never really hard because I was always the type of person. I was always for one, I grew up in a way where I always felt that it was always my fault for things. So when I seen that, like I said, it made sense. I always felt that a lot of problems that I caused, a lot of suffering that I did was because the way I thought, and a lot of that, like I said, after I realized that a lot of these things that I would do to myself, like how I would, like, if other people did things wrong, I would find a way to rationalize it in my brain that somehow it was on me. After I stopped doing that, and I started to, like, give myself the right punishment, let's say that, for lack of a better word. When I didn't take accountability for other people's shortcomings, like I said, my life started to flourish, because I started to control my energy in a way. Like my energy output wasn't going into things that I couldn't control, and it wasn't giving anybody else power over me. Like I don't like giving people power over myself. It's sort of like the idea, like people saying like, well, I'll be a man when a woman, be a woman, and it's like, you shouldn't be giving no lady, responsibility to be a lady. Well, you shouldn't be giving her your power to be a man just because she's not acting right. Like I said, if you're gonna be a man, if she don't want to be a woman, then shit, leave her alone and go about the rest of your business. But don't put yourself in this worse position or don't act like the man you're supposed to be just because she acting this way. If she's gonna act like that, let her act like that and move on and go about your day. But don't, that's very childish in a way. It's like, it's not man-like, from what I've seen. And I think Andre Taylor said something about that, and I like that. Like I said, when he said that, it stuck with me. Because, like I said, it's a good way to live. Like when people act up and people act different, that should never really change how you act. You should always remain the same. Now, of course, the thing about me, I learn a lot so often. Like my viewpoint of things changes a lot. But the baseline, the character of who you are should never change. Your mind can change on certain things just because, everybody's growing and evolving as the days go on, but you should never, ever, like, allow yourself to stop being who you are for somebody else, I believe, it should be times, you compromise certain things, but you should never have to change your base self and who you are to fit somebody else's self-image of you. That's what I don't believe. That's what I don't believe in. And I don't believe that you should be doing that. I don't think anybody should be doing that. If you got to change yourself to be accepted, then you shouldn't be around them, That's something that I have to understand too, is that if people can't accept you for who you are, then like I said, why are you around them, And the idea, that's also another idea where I started to understand that I had to start using my suffering and what I've been through as like a tool to, to help evolve myself, like how they said suffering is like a tool to use to like purify yourself. People go through these bad things and they just focus on the bad things that's happening to them, but they don't relish in the opportunity it is like to point out something that could possibly need work with. Like me, as of recently, I had problems with responsibility, and that's just because of where my mind is and where my focus is all the time. My mind and focus is never on. Sometimes on things I need to be doing. So take my recent, let's say, major problem with my car. When that happened, it literally forced me to sit down. I can't move around freely, like not freedom, that's not even the word. I couldn't move around. I wasn't free enough to do what I wanted to do, and it's like it forced me to sit down and think about what went wrong and the whole scheme of things. Like, dang, like Kevin, you really just being irresponsible. And look, guess what? Until you become responsible, you are not going to be able to make that next step into your adulthood because you're being irresponsible. So you need to, pick yourself up by the bootstraps and really focus in and figure out what you need to do and be responsible. And this is not just responsible like on the financial, even though that's probably the most important one, was the financial. It was more about physically, mentally, emotionally. I had to be responsible for myself and stop allowing myself to, give more of myself and not, I got to stop filling up other people's baskets and not fill up my own, So that's what it really made me do. And like I said, of course, I'm getting better on it. It's not an overnight thing, but you got to take it one day at a time and just keep getting better, And with my car being messed up, it allowed me just to really sit down and be like, dang, it gave me a good angle about what I was doing wrong with my life. So, and of course I felt bad that I ain't had no car, but when I understand the lesson I was getting and what I was, like I said, what was happening, what was going on, I began to appreciate it, and it made me happy. It put a smile on my face. It made me laugh. Like I said, I got that little joke condition. Like when I, they say like in the movie, like when you stressed out, you laugh. It was like when like everything aligned up and you understand what's going on. Like I have a tendency like to be like, I have a tendency to laugh. It's like, just fucked up things be happening, you just be laughing. It's not like it's like, it'd be like, ain't that a bitch? It's like it's crazy, but yeah. I had those type of moments, and when I peeped that, like I said, after that happened, it just showed me that, somebody's there. I think for the spiritual aspect, it just showed me that somebody trying to teach me a lesson, and I need to take it, and I shouldn't be bitter about it, So I'm always gonna be grateful for that. And like I said, that's probably why I'm here now making these videos now. And another quote that was said in this chapter was, it said, it's very human for people to think that they suffer for their virtues. Many times, I think a lot of people think they go through hardships because, let's say they too nice, like this too nice shit. It's like, or they suffer because, like I said, they are harmless and things like that, and like they don't do anything bad. It's like you don't suffer because you do anything bad. It's like, of course, what people deem as negative sides of themselves is subjective. Like me growing up, I used to think being angry is bad. No emotion is bad. I think it's more about the intent and what's behind it. Because like I said, you can be angry Let's say I'm playing the NBA championship. I don't know. I'm angry that my teammate, you know, there's probably a lot of jealousy and envy in the mix of it, or I could be that competitive, or you know, it could just be that I could be angry at forget that. I could be angry at my friend because he's not doing his best, and it's not a negative intent behind it, but it's like it's more of a pure intent. Like you want him to, that's your best friend. You want him to do good, and you want him to be doing bad. So now you angry. It's like in a way you sort of angry for him, in a way, and I think that's how I am with a lot of people around me. I tend to pick up on people. And with it, of course, I don't know truly, but I'll be like, outside looking in, I'll be looking at people and I'll be like, and my emotions get like riled up because like some people be doing some things they know they're not supposed to be doing. And it's like, you care for them. So your heart goes out to them and it's like, you know, you start to pick up emotions. And I guess like in my way, I pick up emotions that I think that they should be feeling, but they don't, you know? But hey, that's just, you know, that's just neither here or there. But back to the video. This is what I was talking about in the last video. Nor does a pure-minded man fall suddenly into crime by stress of a mere external force. Always, always, always. Anything that negatively happens in my life, I gotta write this shit down like during like a shadow work session. But I always understood it was always a thought that I had that I just kept feeding until eventually it manifested. Like it's crazy how many thoughts that I had growing up. And it's just like with me and like people not really like me not having no friends like growing up. It's like, you know, like I thought I was lame growing up, and then eventually, of course, my reality started to reflect that I was like a lame. You know, lame is subjective as well, but it's like lame, like being by yourself is not lame, but people that's doing like just destructive activity and just always cause the drama, that's lame. That's in reality, that's lame. But back then, of course, when you want to be accepted and that type of stuff, you think not being cool is lame. Like when you grow up, you understand that being everybody like this cool term is not really what people think like make it out to be. But yeah, just that, like just being lonely, just being like by myself and just not having no money and that type of stuff is lame. It's like you start to understand well, when I would think like that, eventually those type of things was how people judge me by, and it made me suffer even more than I had to. So yeah, that thought is crazy. Like I said, it's like I think that's probably why like a lot of people like commit suicide. It's like, you know, of course the outer reality is this, but like the way that like people who like are mentally off, they talk to themselves like it only makes it worse. You know, of course, like I said, you only know, so and even make it that worse, and you just feel alone. So I understand that completely. Like it just make it feel worse, and I guess that's why a lot of people commit suicide. It's just like the one. I think like the self-talk is very like powerful, and I think that's leading to the whole idea. Like you have to really be able to guard your mind from negative thoughts from yourself, well, from people, but more importantly yourself. You know, but you know that's another video, but that's something that everybody has to face too. But your outer state will often be a reflection of your inner state. Often said, like people be like, you can tell people mental states from how like their house is. Like growing up, like our house was terrible. House was like, it was just cluttered. It was always full of stuff, and in a way, it subconsciously affected how I like think. And that's crazy how far that type of shit go. Like, of course, like my mom was always, you know, she raised 10 kids by herself, but it's like at the same time, she had her own things she was going through, and you understand that a lot of your habits and all this type of stuff isn't really your habits. You pick it up from the environment, you pick it up from who you hang around and who you grew up with. Like my mother, like my sense of like clutteredness in my own mind and even in my own space at times is crazy. And I used to try to catch myself before I allow myself to just have like a cluttered space for too long. So yeah, it's just crazy how your outer mind will always reflect what's going on inside. You know, like I said, many people that go through depression and like they can't move, like they can't move, but like, you know, they just stay in their bed all day. You can tell by how their room looks. Like their room is very gloomy. It's always dirty. It's always garbage around. It's always, you can tell that something in their mind is going like it's not on, but you know, like they're suffering. They're going through something. Something is going on where like their brain can't contain it, so it it eventually like comes out on the outside, and it tells and you can tell in the environment. Of course, self-harm or things like that is another sign of like, it outwardly manifesting, but usually the environment is like the first pointer, Whenever I was going through something bad, I was in my bed all day, and it's just like I was just extremely dirty. That's one thing I can say, just honest to heart. It's like I was always very closed off. I was very, like I said, I didn't want to move. I didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't want to be around nobody. I just didn't want to move out my space. I just need to be here. I just want to be left alone too. So yeah, that's one thing. Another thing I can say. And a man starts to understand that he becomes the master gardener in his mind, body and soul, and the director of his life. Like I said in the last video, it's like you understand that you have to be very selective of your thoughts. You can't think about you will prefer not to think about anything negative versus something positive. It's like because you know that all thoughts that you have will eventually manifest forward. Like I said, they must. It's like your mind is like a supervisor at your voice and like your mind and what you say is like the voice of, let's say, a supervisor, and then your body and like the outer of reality is like the worker at like a factory. It's like it has to, for the work on the outside was always going to be done. So like I said, let's say in a perfect world, they always listen. So the outer world is going to listen to you always. So you should always speak positive rather than negative. That's one thing I have to understand very quickly, is that you can't skip a beat with it, not one time. Like if you really want to improve yourself, you cannot allow negative self-talk, just negative ideas to seek refuge in your mind. You cannot allow it to happen. If you do, you are bound to not succeed at all. And that's one thing that I had to understand, like really with just growing. But yeah, if you like the video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in a little bit. Thank you.